and it's well, it's as well as the new ones who've joined. Millie, by the way, I don't know if you all aren't in yet. Millie DeVret is here from Israel, so we have an international Zoom. I've gone international. Hopefully, it'll spread. Please, Millie, spread it around. Anyway, and as always, our format is simple. You all know you watch the film at home, and now we come together to analyze it, unpack it, and engage in our conversation. But before we dive into this, our inaugural film for this series, Farewell, Mr. Haffmann, I want to take just a moment to share, the framework that I use and that I've discussed many times with you to evaluate film. Over the years, most of you know and have become quite familiar with what I call the three R's: resonance, relevance, and revelation. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, when we look at a film, we're not just looking at a plot. We're looking for resonance, which is how deeply the emotional and psychological truths of the story linger with us long after the credits roll, how we empathize with characters, how we feel about the story, how it makes us, about particular turns in the story. And we are also looking for relevance, certainly, which examines how the historical, moral, or human dilemmas depicted on screen speak directly to our own world, to our own worldly experience, to human nature, and to society under pressure. And finally, we look for revelation, which is that sudden striking moment of clarity where a character or we as an audience see the unvarnished truth of a situation, a relationship, or a moral compromise. Keep those three R's in mind today as we step into the suffocating, morally ambiguous world of occupied Paris in Fred Cavalier's Farewell, Mr. Haffmann. Farewell, Mr. Haffmann is directed and co-written by Fred Cavalier. In contemporary French cinema, he is best known as a master of high tension, expertly paced thrillers. And here he brings that exact genre of mastery into a historical chamber drama, adapting it was an acclaimed award-winning 2018 French stage play by Jean-Philippe Daguerre, an award-winning playwright. And he did win many awards for this. The play was a huge success in France. It is a gripping humanist portrait of survival and resistance, as well as the tragic consequences of complicity and collaboration. Because of its theatrical origins, the narrative unfolds as a tense, claustrophobic psychological duel confined mostly within the walls of that single jewelry shop and department above in occupied Paris. The film is a historical drama, yes, but Cavalier treats the material with the unrelenting suspense of a psychological thriller. The danger is not merely in an invading foreign military. It is the insidious rot that takes root inside a civil society when fear, paranoia, and opportunistic deviation take hold. That is really the crux of this film. It's not about just the Nazi, takeover. When we first see Francois Mercier, we immediately notice he's wearing a brace on his leg. We also learn that he and his wife Blanche are having trouble conceiving a child. Believing that the fertility struggle is his problem due to his physical limitations, which contributes to his meek, downtrodden demeanor as a shop assistant longing for a better life. And we see that by his timidity when he comes into the shop for the first time, apologizing for lateness and feeling, what's going to happen. When the Nazi occupation begins to tighten its grip and Joseph Haffmann, his Jewish employer, presents him with just such an opportunity, He jumps at it, despite Blanche's reticence, and the transition of power and trust happens quietly in the workshop when Haffman gives Francois the combination to the safe and the offer of what he will give him. But he also displays the Monet painting, our Chekhov, our Chekhov device, if you will, when you think about it, the Monet painting, because it disappears after that. Little did Francois know that it would become the object of his eventual downfall. But when Haffman cannot leave as expected, the original plan is for Francois to simply own and run the shop until he returns. It puts him at Francois's mercy now. And as part of Haffman's hidden existence, it also provides Francois with a means to fulfill his desire to have a child. He pushes Blanche toward Joseph. He says he already has 3 children of his own, believing this will solve their fertility problem. Unbeknownst to Francois, however, the truth of that domestic arrangement later becomes yet another revelation in the film for us, as her pregnancy is actually the tragic result of the night when Francois literally raped her after returning drunk from a night out with Commandant Junger. And where Commandant Junger is concerned, as he admires Joseph's work that Francois passes off as his own, we see Francois sinking ever deeper into the collaborationist world as he tastes wealth, social standing, and authority, especially when being supplied with the jewels stolen from the Jews. And his own designs, and we see his own designs he sees them as a failure, that he pressures Joseph into creating new pieces until Joseph realizes where the jewels have come from, especially that other piece, which was a revelation too, which really, concretizes our knowing where those jewels came from. He sees that little piece that he had given the elderly couple at the beginning. If you remember, it's sitting on the table as he stares at it, and we stare at it. And it's, if we didn't know where they were coming from before, we know now. We know now. And I think it's for people who have no understanding of all of this process of what was happening during that period, this makes it more evident. And as Blanche and Joseph become friendlier to each other, the psychological pressure cooker reaches a boiling point over that devastating betrayal when Blanche discovers that Francois had been systematically withholding and burning Joseph's letters to his wife. And going down into the cellar to confess this painful truth to Joseph, before she can speak, she is suddenly overcome by the severe nausea and rushes back upstairs, which makes it evident that she is pregnant by Francois. This prompts Joseph with the opportunity to be seen, to now be seen as he comes up the steps. And he hands over his recently crafted jewelry to Francois in front of Junger. That's an incredible scene. And Joseph doesn't overplay it. He just simply gives it to Francois and says, that piece you were working on, he is now the assistant. He's playing the part. But that single act triggers a chilling realization when Junger walks over and watches Joseph working on a piece and instantly understands that Joseph has been the true artisan behind the exquisite jewelry all along. And as he looks at Joseph ambiguously, if you look at his face, he's looking at him and trying to discern something. And we're not quite sure what it is. We can guess, but we're not sure. But he delivers that prescient, unsettling warning to Francois, another hammer throw, that Francois, you better be careful. One day that man will steal your spot. One day that man will steal your spot. And as Junger leaves the shop, It leaves us with a lingering question that hangs heavy in the air. Did Younger already suspect or even know that Joseph was Jewish when he told Francois earlier that he was lucky, knowing full well as he departs that in war, everything changes when it ends. Everything changes when it ends. Sort of prophetic for us. When Joseph asks Francois how he feels knowing that fear can change sides, Francois explodes. His moral decay reaches its lowest depths, pushing Joseph down into the cellar and finally taking the Monet. He takes it to a pawnbroker. This fatal misstep becomes his undoing with the realization that he used Joseph's identity to sell the painting. And the only way we knew that was when the police were about to arrest him and they see his identity as Joseph Haffmann. And we're trying to figure out, why did he switch the identity? Well, it was very clear. He needed Joseph's identity to sell the painting. He wanted to look like a desperate Jew trying to get money to get out of France. And he switched his identity. And because he does ask the question, was it the pawnbroker who turned me in? So that really was the crux. He had to show the pawnbroker's identity. Worse still, when Francois took the Monet, he also wrote a letter denouncing Joseph to the authorities, saying he and Blanche essentially captive in his home. The film introduces a masterwork of dark, tragic irony when that denunciation letter finally arrives at Nazi headquarters. Again, another great revelation. That functionary opening up the letter, he's reading it and he sees the name Joseph Haffmann. And he's figuring out, wait a minute. And he looks on the list of those arrested and he sees Haffmann's name. He'd already been arrested. So he takes the letter and just tears it up and throws it away. Francois' ultimate act of betrayal amounts to bureaucratic nothingness, serving only as the instrument of his own undoing. Additionally, as the web collapses, when Blanche discovers Francois' identity card left on the desk next to Haffmann's photograph, she connects the dark dots of his treachery. She takes matters into her own hands to orchestrate Joseph's escape, giving him Francois' identity card, instructing him to swap the photograph, and the money she gives him, which she insists is rightfully his. And in a stunning display of complex human grace, she has a final request for Joseph, that after the war, he tell people that her husband hid him in the cellar, ensuring Francois' legacy would not be that of a collaborator. Even after everything Francois has done, Blanche seeks to protect his public legacy. It is, even though she's turned away from him, it is a profound act of psychological protection from a woman for her child who is completely detached from her husband. The film closes with a powerful testament to survival as we see Joseph's three children emerging from their home and his wife sitting inside, looking up and smiling, confirming that Joseph has safely made it to the free zone. This ending invites us to reflect back, or at least invited me to reflect back, and I hope you did as well, on a quiet, beautiful moment earlier in the film when Blanche is looking at one of Joseph's books. We don't really see the book yet. And he's asking her if she's religious. And she says, not really, but she replies that she believes in heaven and that one should do good in life. When she asks if he believes in God, he answers no, but adds that it's good to have the Torah. It's good to have the Torah, which she is holding in her hand, because we see now what she was holding, and it has a French translation along with the Hebrew. Sarah Giraudot is the actress' name as Blanche, initially portrays her as naive and submissive with Francois, but finally emerges as the film's moral center. She is the true moral center of the film. Her journey from innocence to disillusionment and eventual strength provided a counterpoint to Francois's moral decline. Ultimately, after looking away from Francois when he's taken away by the police and helping Haffmann and asking him to lie about her husband's actions to preserve a heroic memory for their child despite the truth, Daniel Latoya, as Joseph Haffmann, brings gravitas and a quiet dignity to his performance. Oops, wait, we have two people wanting to come in. Oh, there she is. Okay. Now they can come in. All right. Anyway, and Gilles Lelouch as Francois Mercier is cast against type in a complex, gradual transformation from a meek, limping employee into an increasingly corrupted beneficiary of Nazi compliance. It's interesting because in the production notes, he talks, not only is he cast against type, but Gilles Lelouch is Jewish. So for him, it had a personal meaning within the film. Director Fred Cavier intentionally created a claustrophobic, I want to talk about the production values, I'm sorry, of the film are crucial toward our total engagement into the story, which was shot mostly in a studio. The detailing in the shop and basement immerse us in the authenticity of the period. I mean, he puts in actual tools. He really decorated the setting perfectly to heighten the sense of confinement, using just those two rooms and historical realism, providing a resonance that also intensifies the film's psychological intensity. Director Fred Cavalier intentionally created a claustrophobic, intimate atmosphere by setting it mostly in that single shop and basement. Now, it was shot in CinemaScope. And, this is what it means when you shoot a film in CinemaScope. Because with special lenses, it allows for movement within the frame without moving the camera. You don't have to follow a character across a room. You get the whole room. So therefore, it emphasizes the psychological tension over physical action. We're watching the scene play out, and it really creates more tension. Sound. Now, the sound in this film is also crucial, especially since Haffmann, hidden in the basement, experiences the outside world mainly through sound. He hears the bicycle. He hears the Nazis out on the street. He hears the kids playing. The director emphasized that for him, movies are 50% image and 50% sound, which makes sense. And off-screen noises like squeaking stairs and the store bell are used to build suspense because we hear the bell ring. We don't know who's there. We're wondering, okay, what's going to happen now? It conveys Haffmann's isolation from that world. Now, before I open up the conversation, I want to look at the film through those three R's, just quickly. It resonates where I'm concerned, and I hope where you saw it, it resonates as we empathize at first with Francois and Blanche, as well as for Joseph and his family and their plight, until Francois' dark turn, and how the claustrophobia of the shop mirrors the internal cages the characters become locked in through their compromises. They become locked in these cages. They're in a sense imprisoned, each one imprisoned in their own mind as well as physically. For relevance, we find it in how the film demonstrates that tyranny and Nazism in this case doesn't just conquer from the outside, but as I said before, it rots the society from the inside out through ordinary men seizing small advantages. ordinary men seizing small advantages. Now, when you think about it, it also reflects back on Hannah Arendt's feeling of the banality of evil. This is definitely a clear example of the banality of evil in terms of Francois. In interviews, Fred Cavalier, the director, explicitly states that the story could be transposed to any era, including the present day. He draws a parallel to modern situations, such as migrants hiding in basements. This is his words, to show that the mechanisms of betrayal, opportunism, and the transformation of ordinary people into monsters are not confined to the past. It's happened before, it's happening now, and we must be careful because it will happen again. And finally, there are many revelations within the story. The ultimate one found in Blanche's quiet defiance and the devastating irony of Francois's self-inflicted downfall. And now I want to open it up. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Francois's descent, Junger's motivations, and the complex morality at play. Okay, who wants to start us off? Who would like to start the ball rolling? Do I have to play that game we're all familiar with? Somebody? Come on. Thank you, Susan. Go right ahead.
Yeah, you can always count on me to butt in.
Yes, I know. Thank you.
The first thing was it reminded me a bit of Mr. Lazar that we did, Monsieur Lazar,
Yes.
and another film that I don't remember the name of. There was a tailor returning to his town, and
The
his tailor
last suit. The last suit.
the last suit. They take a similar situation and look at it from a kind of a different window, I guess. And talking about windows, that tiny window to the basement, with which even the outside world enters with danger with a ball from a child.
Yes.
The doorways, the openings, you see partial truth. You don't see the whole picture of things. And I was particularly interested by the women in the film, not just the woman in the film. The allure for her of the clothing, the china, the dishes, allure and ickiness, I guess, about it at the same time. And the other women in the film are also taking advantage of the situation, greedy, immoral. I think they're important too in the fact that this kind of using the enemy for your own self is ubiquitous. It's not just men; it's women too.
Yes. Yes. What's interesting is the fact that the thriller aspect of the film, and it's not, it's a courageous, first of all, it had to be a courageous play to put on because it really implicates France's role during this period. It's a French play. It's implicating the French people in what happened, and it's the playwright even states its implication of the fact that the rot happened from within. It's as if the French were waiting for an opportunity like this, or certain French people were waiting for opportunities like this, because there were those in the French government which wanted to capitulate before the Nazis came in, and wanted to create an alliance with the Nazis. So this is history, in a sense, bearing itself out. And Joseph and Francois serve as two stand-ins for whole populations, and it's very interesting because it doesn't it's we know what the ultimate is going to be, what the Holocaust is all about, but it doesn't feel like any other Holocaust film. It's almost in league with the Zone of Interest in many ways that we've done. dealing with it from another side, from another viewpoint, and another perspective, if you will. And I really think it rates up there in terms of that film because it's not dealing with the Holocaust picture; it's dealing with humanity. And as Elena was saying at the beginning, morality. It's a morality play. It really is. Which I thought was fabulous. Thank you, Susan. Uh, Norma?
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Fabulous, fabulous. Susan, you mentioned the ball, and I made a note to myself that the ball coming in through the basement opening is really a metaphor because Francois ended up playing ball with, yeah, all right. I wasn't going to
Interesting
start.
perspective.
I wasn't going to start there. I actually thought Francois and Blanche were reluctant initially.
Yeah.
Initially, they both were. Blanche was actually embarrassed when she was caught in that green dress. I
Yes.
thought Francois initially was also reluctant. Um, and then I'm going to argue with you, Shelley. The Chekhov gun was the locket because the locket was at the very beginning of the film when he gave it to that elderly couple. And then we saw the locket when Francois brought back the jewelry that was stolen from Jewish people.
I hear you. You're right. But remember,
But
even cowboys wear two guns. Even cowboys wear two guns.
okay, all right. Um, Well, I thought there was one red herring, and maybe when you
There's more
just
than one. Yeah.
okay, when you explained about the ID to sell the painting was the ID that Francois had on him. I was confused by the wallet that Francois took from Joseph and put in the desk. That threw me so that when I saw the wallet on the ID on the street to the gendarmes, is that how you pronounce it? I
Yes.
was thinking, wait a minute, wait a minute. So how did it get from the desk to, and that's an ellipsis. Okay. The one thing I need to tell you all, I thought the one most poignant, touching scene was when Joseph turned away from Blanche when she wanted to kiss him. That was, oh, so powerful. So powerful. Way to go, Joseph. Fabulous film. Way to go, Shelley. I think this is one of the best films we've ever seen together.
Thank you. Thank you. Maria.
I'm so glad that you explained why he changed the identity, because I had, I kind of missed that part.
Mm.
But I was just amazed, like the betrayal at different level. Like
Mhm.
she betrays him at the very beginning because she's really not having sex, with the
Yes.
Hoffman. And then obviously Hoffman also betrays him when he comes forward because at that point he felt desperate and the Nazis could have taken him at that point and killed him. And the way the wife is betraying the husband. So it's just the only two people who didn't betray each other is Hoffman and the wife. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
the relationship that they formed and how they teamed and so actually good won over evil. It's just yeah.
Absolutely. And it's the idea, but when he says to him, I mean, it shows you how beautifully the play was written. When he says to him, when he comes down after Younger leaves, and he says to him, he says, how does it feel to know that fear changes sides?
Yeah.
Fear changes sides.
Yeah.
I thought was a powerful statement. I mean, there's several powerful statements within the film, and I didn't really discuss. His name is I think Nikolai Kinski, who played Younger. I mean, he really, you could see the his mind working and how he manipulates
Yeah.
Francois. And when the and Francois' disappointment, because we see him at the beginning drawing in a book and he's drawing designs. He wants to become a jewelry designer, and how the woman with Younger, says that the pieces really don't work. They're not as good as the original pieces, and which forces him now to go back to Joseph.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
he's inferior, and I mean, he considers himself. He knows that he's not as good, and he also
yes,
that he cannot have children. Like at least in his mind.
yeah,
So yeah, so just a very powerful movie, and I cheated, and I also watched the second one, and wait till everybody's going to see the second movie.
yes.
Oh,
I'll talk about it in a few minutes. Thanks.
Unfortunately, I will be out of town, so I won't be here for it. But
Okay, well, you can see the recording. I do record
yeah,
these,
yeah,
so
I
uh,
will.
at least I thought I recorded it. I hope I did. Anyway, one of the things I didn't discuss, which is also crucial in the film, is the way he handles, and he doesn't handle them. He handles them in a matter of fact way because it is history that we know about. But the Roundup #1, which took place in 1942, France, they're really privy to it, but it's not really well known to a lot of people, especially younger people, I guess, which is something that this film should relate to them too, is the fact that he just subtly shows us that baggage on the street. You saw a piece of luggage opened up with the clothes strewn, and the shops all closed and marked with the Stars of David, and the fact that now the neighborhood's empty. I mean, it didn't require any words. I
Mhm.
mean, visually, he tells the story,
Remember that?
and I think that's what cinema is all about, is telling the story through the visual, not always having to hit you over the head to explain it. Especially if you understand history. So I thought that those and the passage of time within the story, he gives us an indication of how time is passing. So we know it's a long period. This isn't something that took place over a couple of weeks. Okay, Elena. There
Okay,
you go.
thank you. You all said everything and more than I was thinking. You just did a super job, all of you. Um, I do want to point out the few French who are not conspirators. They would show up on the street every now and then. Uh, and I like to see them out there, and they just turn their backs on what was happening in the store. There weren't many in France, as in many places, but those people, it took courage and they did it. And so I want to applaud them for that. The movie, as we went through it again just now, as you reviewed it, and as all the folks here pointed out what was relevant to them, it just took me again and again. It's such a powerful movie. And it's sad to see that people go to certain levels of their character. And, we've been told you can never tell how you would react. Well, I do know how some people would react. And I unfortunately don't know how others would. So it brings up all the doubts you could have about someone, even yourself. I like to think I would never do anything like that. But it's we just don't know what happens when we're in a situation like that, like anything like that. By the way, I no longer write things clearly when I'm writing to somebody about my politics, because I figured somebody may be watching. The crazy people up there. So I'm not changing my views, but I'm much more cautious.
No, good. Also relating to your first comment about the people on the street, remember, some of this was a Jewish quarter, and some of them were the Jewish shop owners, because they disappear. They disappear later in the film. I mean, it's mixed with it is mixed a little bit probably, but some of them were the Jewish shop owners, and that's why they have that look of disgust on their face. They're looking at the betrayal. They're looking at that. How could you do this? To this man who took you in, kind of thing. And it was interesting because there was a comment, and you just reminded me of it. During the course of the film, that he never treated him badly. And in fact, he says that when Blanche, who turns, who really realizes who she is. But she thought that, look at the way he treats you. She says, he doesn't treat me badly. He doesn't treat me like a slave. He doesn't treat me, and he makes a point out of that. So we know, everything is taken into consideration within this screenplay, which probably was within the play. By the way, I just want to note before I call on Al, I just want to note this film made overall internationally, it made about $6.5 million, which is very good for an international film. 6 million of it was made in France. 6 million of it was made in France, which said that the French people turned out for this film. It was very successful, which I was glad to read about. Now let me move on. Al.
Hello there.
Hi.
I'm so glad we have so many of our fellow film mates back together. This is great to see everybody back. I'm glad everybody's looking good and feeling good. A couple quick comments. One, as soon as this movie started up and I saw things happening, excuse me, I took the phrase, whatever can happen will happen. And that's exactly what happened. It followed that mentality that whatever is possible, it was going to happen, and it did. The one other thing I noticed real quick, Shelley, is, are you sure Blanche wasn't Jewish? The reason I say that is very simple. When she went down to see Joseph for the first get together to see if they were going to have a little baby making time, her comment as she laid down was very simply, "I'd like it over fast." Now, that to me, sir, is a statement that I think is well known by a lot of people. Is this going to take long?
Leave it to you. Leave it to you.
So I felt maybe Blanche was really Jewish in disguise, because she acted like many of the women that I remember. In any event.
Okay, wait. Before you continue, I'm going to turn your phrase on you. When it comes to Al speaking, whatever he'll say, he's going to say.
I think you ended it really well. The movie was really ironic. It ended up great. I enjoyed it very much. And the two characters I really loved the best was Joseph. I really just loved the way he acted, the way he did. And Blanche, I thought she was superb. I mean, it was a great movie for all of them, but those two stood out in my mind. Good.
Yeah,
good
well,
selection,
I'm glad. Thank you, Al. Thank you for your comments. And I will tell you, they are among the three very prominent actors in France. All three have made a lot of terrific film. They also do stage work. So it's, in fact, Gilles Lelouch, who plays Francois, is also a playwright, as well as a director and an actor, as is Daniel Otoya also. And I thought that they did admirable work. So thank you. Eunice?
Yeah, the mechanism of revelation was used so beautifully in this script. One revelation after the other. just send you to the next revelation, and then the next one that made the plot move along. It was done so beautifully and ingeniously.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yes, it was. I mean, it's a grand revelation. I mean, this film answers all my qualifications when I judge a film. So definitely, definitely. Thank you, Eunice. Dixie.
I thought what was fascinating was Francois's personality and his relationship with Blanche. And you saw at the very beginning how loving and caring he was. And he was so much in love, and he kept telling her how pretty she was and how wonderful she was. And then you start seeing it deteriorate. When he first sent her down to the basement and she came up, you don't know what happened, because when he went down, all he saw was a crumpled bed. And every time she went down to the basement, you saw the expression on his face change. And his whole personality was deteriorating and getting angry. And and I thought it was amazing that I knew that Joseph wasn't going to have sex with her. I felt that he had too much character, and that he loved his wife and children, and he wanted to be with them. And I thought he was a good influence on Blanche. And she didn't let on, which was very interesting, because she'd come up angry that she had to go down to the basement. I guess she was angry that her husband would do something like that to her, and their relationship started to deteriorate. He would go out drinking with Younger. And then when he came and raped her, I think that was the end of their relationship. I think that he never told her he loved her and how beautiful she was. And he just was resentful and like was ready for revenge, which he did. But their acting was incredible. And I thought Blanche, she was really the person who had more character and depth than Francois, that she was a
Mm-hmm.
real person inside, and that she saw through this, because
Right.
she knew that Joseph never
No.
did anything to her and was only kind to her, and encouraged her to take typing and to do it, to follow her dreams. Her husband never, don't do the laundry anymore, so quit, just stay home. But he encouraged her to pursue her dreams and to be the person she wanted to be. So I thought that was, very interesting. They were all wonderful. I mean, I had to let Norman know that I was like overwhelmed by the movie. It was a happy ending and a tragic ending at the same time.
Oh,
Just when
sure.
oh yeah.
Sure. I mean, I mean, there are so many ideas that, remain unspoken that fly through your mind. And I'm glad you brought up the scene again when she told, and he asks her, what did you want to do? And she talks about, the typewriter. First of all, I love the scene. It's so evocative, the way she says there was a typewriter, and then there was a typewriter factory, and she was taken in by this machine, and what this machine could give her. It's something in a play that really works well, because it takes you inside of a character and the feelings that she evokes in talking about it. That it is just great. Again, great writing. I mean, I would love to see the play. The play really just took place in one room, and they used chalk lines to demarcate when they stepped out of the room. So it must have been very interesting as a play. So thank you,
Yeah,
Sarah,
and her,
Dixie.
when he pushed Joseph down the stairs, I think that was the coup de grace for
Oh,
her.
sure. Sure. I mean, it's he was paranoid. I mean, as he comes down, he becomes more and more paranoid, which is definitely an effect someone like him would have. When you're betraying people, you're all of a sudden doing something to gain power. You become paranoid because there's going to be people that are after you, and just because you're paranoid doesn't mean someone isn't after you.
Mhm.
Kind of thing. So, thank you, Francis.
uh, Thank you for showing us this movie, because it was just amazing. I didn't understand. Until you told us, I did not know that it was Francois himself that changed the ID card. I thought it was Blanche. who had done. And I thought, wow, amazing, but it makes even more sense when you explained it. So I have a question and then I have something to say about the movie. When they filmed the movie, did they film it? I know you said it was done inside, but the outdoor scenes, are those in France in the ghetto?
That's an absolutely wonderful question, which I'm glad you asked. No, actually, it was shot up in Montmartre.
Oh,
He wanted an old neighborhood and he couldn't find one below. And he went up to Montmartre where they still have these alleys and these places, and they decorated the street. Now, I will tell you, the film was made at points during COVID, so they had to close up the production for a few months, and all the posters and things were still on the street. And they try to keep it there, to keep it away from people, but they couldn't. And people were wondering what was going on. They'd see these posters about Jews, and they would see what it, and there were questions being asked, and they said the police were very valuable in trying to maintain the place, because they would have to go back and reshoot, and he didn't want to waste too much footage on reshooting that street. So it was done on a street in Montmartre that he captured 1942. So great question. Thank you.
so what I wanted to say was, if you guys know Timothy Snyder, who's a historian,
Sure.
American historian who's now moved to Canada, he's giving free lectures on YouTube, and you can catch him on YouTube, and it's on fascism and defiance and everything. So each person, they're historians and different professors who give the lectures. So one of the first lectures was on moral defiance. Moral defiance, and we see what it takes here. So Blanche is morally defiant of everybody, and you see it, how she goes from being scared of her husband and then becoming defiant. And she's one of the characters who really stands up to tyranny and the moral courage to do what is right. Now, we always ask ourselves, and what would we do? And Elena, we know. I don't know how I would react either more than you would. I don't know. But Blanche knew what she had to do and she did it. In the spur of the moment, you hope that you would do the right thing. The husband is, I have seen people like her husband who are inept, not quite smart enough to be the boss, but want to be the boss. And they get to the point where they become the boss and cannot really do the job. And so they think that they will be great, but then they decay. They show an inner decay. And this is what this movie shows us. The disintegration of morality in the face of a power and what it does to you. And this is what Francoise shows us. But what this movie does is that it gives us a break in the end, because good versus evil, and good won. And so he got his just desserts, but life doesn't always work that way. But no. It did for us and for Francoise, because he got what he deserved. But this is everything in Tim Snyder's lectures, how reality works and morality works, and how defiance works. Now, in France, there was resistance. And what I have learned through listening to a lot of lectures and things in the French TV was that most of the resistance was done by socialists. And they said was because the bourgeois people had a lot to lose, and the socialists didn't have anything to lose, so they were the resistance. There were also other people that helped the Jews a lot, but they were in the provinces. Now, some of my great grandparents, they were saved by people outside of Paris, and they hid in the hay stacks, and they hid there for 2 and 3 years. So it was the farmers, the people that had nothing to lose, but they had their lives to lose. So there were good people in France as well as bad people, people who turned Jews in. So everywhere there are those who help and those who don't, and those who just say, you know what, I'm going to turn him in because I want that painting and I want that stuff because that should be mine. And that happens everywhere. So this movie was great and I learned a lot. And thank you to everyone who taught me more than I knew in the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. And by the way, yes, for everybody involved, if you don't know who Timothy Snyder is, he's a great historian. He taught at Yale. He wrote a book, and I happen to have it here on my desk. It's entitled On Tyranny, and it's 20 lessons from the 20th century, which he wrote during He Who Shall Go Nameless's first election. It was written during that period, and it's a very simple book. You could read it in about an hour, but it really encapsulates how he feels about how society was taken in during this period. Yeah, he's definitely a disciple of Hannah Arendt. Yes, if you get a chance, he spells his last name Snyder, Snyder, and he's very interesting to listen to. He would be, I would have him as a teacher anytime. So if you do look on YouTube, just put his name in and you'll find his lectures. Thank you, Francis, for that. Richard, I want to get to you in a minute. But first, Larry had his hand up. Larry, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Shelley. Couple of things. I love the set design of the movie, and you mentioned the location in Montmartre, but where the store was positioned at the junction of two roads, leading in different directions, which I thought had some metaphorical elements to it. And each of the time there was a farewell, you watch the tracking shot early in the film of the family going up the road, and then slowly disappearing around the corner. And then at the end of the film, you see Joseph slowly going up the road and disappearing around the corner. So I thought that was very artistically done and had some symbolic intent. The second or the last comment I had regarding collaboration during the war was, the famous documentary, The Sorrow and the Pity, came out in 1969 about collaboration in France. That film was not allowed to be shown in France for almost 10 years following its production, because this was still such a sensitive topic in France during those years. So I know this is something that, people did not want to face up to for a long time, but probably the generation now, the 21st century generation, that's maybe why the film was so popular in France, because younger people want to see this. They want to know their history. So I think it was a terrific film. We really both enjoyed it very much.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you so much, Larry and Judy. Susan, and then I want to get to Richard.
There we go.
There you go.
That just reminded me of another film about France during this time called Suite Française, which is also a wonderful book.
Also novel. It was a great novel.
It was based on a novel by the woman involved about people escaping Paris and how people reacted to their encroaching their farms and so on, positively and negatively. Absolutely fascinating book. The movie was pretty good, but the book was fabulous.
Yeah, I remember it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Richard, you had a story to tell?
Well, Shelley, I just wanted to say um, I'm going to let Joel do the talking because it's really about his family, his
Uh-huh.
mother's parents who died in the camps.
Right.
And they were taken away just a month or two after the famous Wannsee conference,
Conference.
which made the final solution. And when I'll just say one thing, when we went to Germany for the first time in 1976, one of my brothers speaks fluent German. So he came with us to Joel's grandparents' home, what was their house. And the neighbors were still alive in 76, the Christian neighbors. And they came over and they wondered, what are we doing walking around their yard and Joel's grandparents' house? And the neighbors all said, "Oh, you're related to them. Oh, yes. When they left with the Nazis, they told me, this is the neighbor across the street, oh, you can have my house. I'll be back." So Joel's grandparents never came back. But the neighbors took over the house because
Yeah.
they claimed that Joel's grandparents said, you can have the house. We'll be back. But this
Was this in France, Joel?
No, this was Germany.
This is Germany,
Germany.
small town in Germany.
Right.
Interesting.
Well, Richard was telling the story that when we went to Germany that first time, that his brother and sister-in-law took us to Wannsee to see the location of the Wannsee conference, and it was a very nice little museum that they have set up where they tell the story. And the Wannsee conference took place in February of 1942, and it was right after that that the extermination camps were built in eastern Poland. And it was in April of 42 that my grandparents were taken away and were really never heard from again. So we don't know if they ever made it to the camps or were killed on the train or or in eastern Poland when they finally got there, or if they actually made it to a camp.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the big, and if you notice, there were two roundups in this film,
Yes.
and I guess it was common for there to be an initial roundup and then later on to try and pick up some of the people who were still left. I know in my grandparents' town, there my grandfather's brother and his family were picked up. I don't remember if it was just before or just after my grandparents, but they were sent to a different place. They were sent to Riga, my parents to Itzvika, and other people in the town were sent straight to Auschwitz. But when we went there, everybody was friendly. Everybody took very good care of us. The town now is very pro-Jewish. There was a Jewish cultural festival going on while we happened to be there. But back in 1933, my grandparents were smart enough to know that right after Hitler came to power, they had two daughters and they should get them both out of the country.
Mm.
So my mother was the younger of two sisters, and her older sister was engaged to be married, so she went directly to Israel with her new husband. And my mother came to the U.S. to live with her aunt, who had been living here for maybe 20 or 30 years. That's why I'm here. So,
Thank God. Yes, thank you.
but that's the story. It was just the timing of the story and the timing of the Wannsee conference that Richard's initial response.
Well, this is the perfect example of resonance for you, in how you look at this film. And yes, there were two in the film. One is the initial occupation by the Germans, by the Nazis, and then the second one was the Hippodrome, what they called the Hippodrome event, which was when they rounded them up and put them all in the Hippodrome, which was an arena, for bicycle races, and they were all locked up in there and then deported. So yes, that was the final one. So Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story.
At the beginning of the film, I thought that she was going to be the one to turn them in because she was so reluctant to get involved in this in the first place. But
Well,
things turned around as the story progressed.
and that's on purpose to show you the transformation of character, and understanding a situation. So good. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to add?
Yes, Shelley, I
anyone?
still can't find a hand.
You still can't find the hand. Okay.
But I have a mouth.
Okay, go right ahead and use it.
I really did not think of Joseph's negatively about what Joseph did. As was the trio for me is just desserts. When you mentioned that, that's what I kept thinking about Joseph. He revealed himself. It wasn't a betrayal. He was willing to face the music. He had nothing more to lose, and happily, it worked out for him. But I didn't look at it as a betrayal. Now, maybe I didn't because I'm prejudiced because I'm Jewish. I don't know. But it seemed like he was willing to say, yes, this is because they could have taken him as well.
Well, at that point, that's why it's ambiguous when Younger looks at him and may have a suspicion but doesn't say anything. Like maybe he was hiding him downstairs.
Right.
It's so, but your feeling is not altogether wrong. Again, it's part of the ambiguity. When he comes upstairs, is it just the betrayal? No, it's not just the betrayal. It's in a sense of I might as well get it over with because it seems to be impending at that moment.
Right.
So it just you could think of it any way you want. I mean that's a characterization, and that's something that's very subjective. I think in terms of the play, in terms of the ideas that are circulating within that room at that time, at that moment. So I wouldn't say you're wrong. I would say there's different perspectives. So terrific, terrific. Norma, before I call on you, let me first call on Millie.
Yeah.
When Francois is with the police and he's calling Blanche and he's saying, this is not, she can explain, she'll explain. And I thought, here she is. She's with child, but her morality, but her sense said no. She wanted, I mean, I think that was a very hard decision for her to make because she had nothing on her own. She even gave Joseph the money. So I thought that was quite, yeah, I didn't know.
Oops, we lost you, Millie. You went inaudible. Yeah, you got it. You have to unmute, Millie. You got muted.
Okay,
There
I
you
just
go.
wanted that really struck me because she came, Francois was her life. I mean, she had no life and he was her protector and he was, yeah. And here he's saying, he's calling her, help me, help me. And she turned her head. She turned away from him. So
Yeah,
I
she
like
closed
that.
the gate. Yeah, she
She
closed the
closed the
gate.
gate.
Well,
Yes.
it's again, one has to think what transpired during the film, and her conversations with Joseph led her, more and more gave her strength. When he said, you could still do that. You don't let things stop you. When she talks about becoming a typist and it's not beyond something you can't do. It's conceivable. And I think part of that and also the disgust at what Francois did. I mean, it was morally reprehensible. I mean, it was just terrible. So it's
And he
understood.
wanted her, he was giving his wife to another man because
Right.
not for so much because he knew she wanted a child as much as he wanted to show that he could father a child. He would not adopt a child.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Very
Terrific.
good
Thank
movie.
you.
You know something? I have to tell you. I feel like I'm back in Boca, like Thursday mornings. And I was so excited that I could do this, being here in Israel. So thank you very much. Thanks to everybody.
Terrific. Terrific. Thank you, Mill. And it's a pleasure to have you here. As I said, you've made this international. So thank you. Norma.
Very small point, but another symbolic point. Blanche. Her name means white. Purity.
Purity.
She played that part.
That's terrific. No, that's not a small point. Thank you. Thank you. And, Francois, French, France. That's terrific. Yeah, Dixie.
There was another time, I think, when Younger and his buddies were in the jewelry store and the basement door was ajar. And they looked at it and they could have gone down, maybe suspected. And I think Blanche closed it, but I'm not sure.
She went to get the ball.
She went to get the ball.
Get the ball. Yeah. Yeah, she ran down because she knew he
No,
couldn't
that
do
time
anything.
the door was closed and she was coming up and had to open the door. But there was another time when that door was ajar when they were there and she closed it. And then because he was trying to say that I couldn't help it, he made me do it. And those guys that didn't speak English, didn't speak French, and she stopped that whole thing. So I mean, there were a lot of little things like that in the
Oh
movie.
yeah, there were a lot of little scenes when the Germans first come into the store for him to talk to Younger. I mean, all of these things, they don't understand what he was saying. They wanted the ball, and he didn't understand what they were talking about. And that's when Blanche ran downstairs. Yes, yes. Terrific. Okay,
It's just that sometimes you see a movie like this and you think about today and you get very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Which brings me to next week's film. I'm sorry, Lynn. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're going to talk about symbols, the more successful jewelry were the butterflies that Joseph designed.
You would say
That's
that.
a symbol of freedom.
But I have to let everybody know Lynn is an artist, and one of her most prominent symbols in her art is a butterfly. So
very relevant.
Yes, very relevant to you, certainly, not to us. Thank you. Thank you. So now, next week, you are going to experience, if you haven't already seen it, I know Maria's seen it, it's a challenging film. It is, in my estimation, a demonstration of great filmmaking. It will be surprising. I mean, remember when I said that, and you'll be surprised by what I'm talking about. The name of the film is The Blind Man Who Did Not Want to See Titanic. A very interesting title to begin with. When you look at it, The Blind Man Who Did Not Want to See Titanic, and what it is referencing. But the film has been internationally acclaimed at Venice, Berlin, and several major festivals around the world. It is from Finland. It's somewhat darkly humorous. It's somewhat romantic, but it is a cinematically unusual, what we would call rom-com action thriller. And it's emphatically shot from a shallow focus perspective of a character, and he is an actor who is blind and unable to walk. The character is blind and unable to walk. And you will see it has a lot of bright moments in it. It also switches in genre in the middle of the film. as you'll see, into a thriller. And it is, I want you, what you'll be seeing through the camera, through the lens, is the perspective of the character. He's almost blind, so you'll understand that right from the beginning, and also the fact that, but he's a wonderful actor. I'll tell you more about next week. This is also a film for cinephiles, as you'll see from the character's perspective. Very different, very challenging in many ways. But I want you to think about it as you watch it and really read those subtitles because they're important. Somebody had mentioned, I forget who it was, who said, I don't know what I would do in I think it was Elena before, what I would do in that place. And this is again, ask that question of us. Ask that question of us because it does deal with a handicapped person, and is quite unusual. I thought the film was quite unusual. I will tell you, it's been a hit with audiences and critics alike. When I discovered it, I just felt I had to share this movie because I got to discuss it, and I want to get your viewpoints on it. So I am looking forward to next week. I'm looking forward to the coming weeks. I'm looking forward to a lot of weeks with you guys. I just can't tell you how appreciative I am that you're joining in on this. It's wonderful, and I thank you all. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
They look forward too.
Thank you.
Have a good. Thank you, Beverly. Have a
Shelley,
good
bye,
week.
everybody.
Thank you. It's good to see
Bye-bye.
everybody.
For
Great.
doing this.
Take care. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Hold on.
Wait, whoops, now I have to get out.
Francis, if